Hello, I'm Doug Nestler from Korg USA. Very happy to present the Korg TRITON Extreme. TRITON Extreme is the flagship workstation from Korg, who has for over 40 years been a leader in the keyboard and technology business. A workstation, by definition, combines sounds, sequencing, and a storage device. And we're going to start with sounds. In any Korg keyboard, we have two types of sounds. We have programs, which are typically single sounds mapped or spread across the whole key range. Then we have something called combinations. A combination is up to 8 programs blended together, typically involving a split keyboard setup, a layered keyboard, or some more complex MIDI configuration. So let's go back and touch the program mode. We'll see that programs and combis are stored in places called banks. Each of these banks stores 128 programs, giving us a total of over 2,000 sounds at our fingertips. Let's start in Program Bank A with a sound called BD Concert Grand, or Grand Concert. This is a beautiful representation of a Bösendorfer piano. I drop the octave one. Sounds in a synthesizer are stored on ROM chips. Here in the TRITON Extreme, we have maxed out the system at 160 megabytes of onboard sounds. Now this could range from a concert grand piano, and the amount of notes we can play at the same time, or polyphony, is also maxed out at 120 notes of polyphony. This is important when you put your sustain pedal down on a piano and want to sustain a long passage. We don't have to have any fear about notes dropping out, the dreaded voice stealing phenomenon that many keyboards have to deal with less polyphony. Now let's move on to our next sound, Concert Grand. This is a sample from a Steinway piano. Different tonality than the first one, and we'll notice we're in a place called the Performance Editor. Here, the most commonly edited parameters are at your fingertips, and speaking of your fingertips, you'll notice that everything we're doing is happening with a touch view display. The TRITON pioneered the use of the touch view, the most elegant way to get around on a keyboard, making this extremely intuitive and fast to use for the user. Let's first touch this triangle and see a menu of sounds that are on board. So right now we're in a group of piano sounds, and we can call up, in this case, piano and string. Perhaps a Wurlitzer. Many other sounds. But where are all the sounds in one category? We'll simply touch a box that says Category, and now every sound in the instrument has arranged itself in a logical musical category. You'll notice that there are tabs on the left and the right side of the display that say things like keyboard, organ, bell, strings, vocal, brass, drums, etc. And all we have to do is touch the tab. In this case, I'll touch guitar. All of the sounds are now logically arranged. All the guitar sounds are at our fingertips. Let's take a listen to a sound called Acoustic Guitar Velocity Gliss. What they're talking about here is velocity. How hard we play the keyboard is going to provide a dramatic change and get us one step closer to emulating what a real guitar player does. Now let's first listen to the guitar sound. A guitarist, 6-string, usually plays. Those are the open strings. Oops. Now as we play harder, we get the glissando when we strike only with hard key velocity. So there, we can start to try to think more like a guitarist. Or perhaps a nylon guitar. Beautiful tone coming from the TRITON Extreme. Just as quickly, we can move into a heavy rock lead. So it's very easy to get expressive guitars using the onboard controls. Next, let's move to the organ category. And many of us love to play Hammond organs. Here's an example of how the TRITON Extreme can get us into a... Here you'll notice I'm moving the joystick, not just for pitch bend. Wouldn't be appropriate in a Hammond, but here we're going to turn on the Leslie. Turn it off. Notice how accurate this Leslie sounds. Another new innovation in the TRITON Extreme is the addition for the very first time of a 12 AU7 vacuum tube. Okay, this valve force tube can serve two purposes for us. We can use it as an insert effect, in many cases, as you'll see in a second, applying additional distortion and overdrive, but we could also use the tube to be assigned to the left and right audio outputs, warming up the sound and taking advantage of the fact that vacuum tubes can give us a nice analog warmth. So let's first take a listen to Hard CX3. Perhaps you'll remember this song. We're going to go and add valve force technology to get a super overdriven Hammond organ. Here we go. Leslie. So we can use that. Now in this example, I'll go to the bass guitar. This is called new acoustic bass. In this case, valve force is on, the tube is on, but not for distortion. It's actually adding a nice touch of analog warmth to the output. Another example of using the tube to really maximize the bottom end and the distortion will be in the drum category. Here's a sound called Electro Kit 2. Basic dance beat. Listen to the difference as we go from the basic beat to adding valve force. Hear that thudding bass? Here's it off and on. So if you're looking to create big bottom hip-hop beats, look no further than the TRITON Extreme. Now that's a quick overview of what's happening in the program category. One other note, let's take a listen to some string sounds. Just gorgeous original samples here. Everything from a single string fiddle, maestro violin, groups of strings, let's move on and talk about combinations. As mentioned before, a program is a single sound. A combination is up to 8 programs blended together. In many cases, it's going to be something simple like a left-hand bass and a right-hand piano. So let's look for that. Using Touch View, let's go Category. We'll look for bass splits. Here we go, Jazzy CX3. Maybe not a piano, maybe an organ on the right side. And we'll actually also employ our dual polyphonic arpeggiator. In this case, creating a backbeat for us. Another example of that, a bass and whirly split. Let's also talk about key zones and velocity. I've moved to the orchestral section. I'll call up a sound called Red Canyon Split. In this case, you'll notice when we play soft, we have light orchestral strings and brass. Play a little harder. And down here at the bottom, as we play harder, we bring in the timpani and the orchestral crash cymbal. Now we can put it all together. Allowing again at your fingertips to use velocity to create dramatic changes and representing different orchestral instruments. Now if you get an idea that you like to quickly record, one of the biggest advantages of the TRITON Extreme is an onboard sequencer. But we've made it even easier with something called one-touch record. So let's call up an electric piano, turn on the arpeggiator, got a little groove going here. Just say we just want to instantly capture that idea. What could be easier with only one touch? We hold down the enter button and hit record. It says in the screen, do you like to record or would you like to set up to record? We touch OK. That quickly, a sequence was created, the sound was dropped into the sequencer, and we simply now have to hit the start-stop button. 5, 6, 7, and... That quick, we'll hit play. So capturing a song idea is as easy as one touch. However, you can get even more elaborate, create a new sequence. We'll quickly call up what's called a song template. There are 15 song templates and plenty of places for us to create our own templates. So let's go in here and load a template. I'll load a template called Acid Jazz. Now, since I'm not a drummer, I'm going to lean on the Triton with its 150 drum patterns on board. Let's hit OK, and it's offered us up, in this case, acid jazz sounds and a beat. Well, perhaps I don't care for that beat, so by touching that prompt there, we have access to all the drum beats on board. I like this beat. So let's print that by hitting OK, and we'll quickly knock out 24, 32 bars of drums that quickly. Now, let's just go to track 2. They offer us a fretless bass. Well, I don't feel like a fretless bass this morning. Today, let's go in and touch the name of the track, and there's every bass sound available to us. What could be easier when setting up a sequence? Let's look for something with a little bit more punch. Switch bass. Okay, we like that. We simply, at this point, I'm actually going to change this to give me a 4-bar, 4 count, with one measure pre-count, or 4 clicks down. Here we go. Record and play. Click, 2, 3, 4. Something, what if we really just wanted to work on that first 4 bars and create a loop? Well, fortunately, every track has its own loop value, so we'll touch play loop in the screen. We'll tell the bass track only to play back what was done from bar 1 to bar 4, and at this point, when we get to bar 5, it'll simply skip the part where we went to the D, and it will stay grooving on this A part. Stays on the A, so that gives us the freedom to work on this part. Let's move to track 3. Notice track 3 has a nice electric piano. Effects have already been bussed in place. 2, 3, 4. Once again, let's just loop that, get away from all those mistakes, and we'll do one more track. Here's a Stratocaster type sound, chicken plucking Strat. I like it to strum like a guitar, and that's pretty hard for me as a keyboard player, so we'll turn on the Arpeggiator, and just as if it knows what I want, this is going to sit right in the track at the perfect tempo. 3, 4. Okay, we'll loop that. Let's do this at a different loop value, 2 measures. And that quick, we're ready to go back, maybe play some lead along with it with a synth. Now, at any time that you like, you can take this performance, anything you've played, anything you've recorded, and you can bring it down to an onboard compact flash card. Okay, we support up to 1 gigabyte on a compact flash card. At that point, your performance would be a stereo wave file, and it, of course, you probably know, would be one step away from burning audio CD through the onboard USB ports, or you could export that file over to your computer. I'd also like to mention that the Triton Extreme is a sampling-based workstation. We can have up to 96 megs of ROM on board. The product ships with 16 megs, but can be expanded to 96 megs. And it's very, very simple for the user to create their own sounds, their own drum loops, their own sampled sounds on board, and again, store them on the compact flash card. There's a comprehensive sample editing program built in with time slicing, compression, expansion, of course, all the basics, cut, copy, paste to edit your sequencing. It is, despite what you might think in a standalone keyboard, completely capable of full music production. It's also available in 3 different models. We have the Triton Extreme 61, which is a 61-note, 5-octave keyboard. What we're looking at here is the Triton Extreme 76, which is the same synth action, velocity-sensitive keyboard with an extra octave. And then there is the Extreme 88, which features Korg's top-of-the-line, real hammer action, 88-note piano key bed. A gorgeous representation of the real deal.